Before we get into this, just a brief, transparent note. This channel no longer earns from advertising, which means the dog rescue effort that AD Revenue used to support now depends on direct viewer help. If you want to contribute, the PayPal and Amazon links in the description both go toward that work. No pressure, just, an honest update. Now, Moringa oleifera, the tree that does more with a single trunk than almost any other plant in agricultural botany, and whose suppression from mainstream Western agricultural knowledge is not incidental but actually has a documented economic history connected to the same industrial interests that shaped modern medicine, fuel, and food production simultaneously. Moringa oleifera is native to the Himalayan foothills of northwestern India and has been cultivated across South Asia, Africa, and Southeast Asia for millennia as a food crop, a medicinal plant, a water purification agent, a biofuel feedstock, and a soil improvement crop simultaneously. Every part of the plant is useful. The leaves produce one of the most nutritionally complete plant foods known to agricultural botany. The seeds yield an oil with cosmetic and culinary properties that rival high-value imported oils and that has been used in watchmaking and fine lubrication applications because of its non-drying stability. The seed meal, left after oil extraction, purifies contaminated water through a coagulation mechanism that removes suspended particles and certain microbial contaminants from turbid water more effectively than several chemical flocculants used in municipal water treatment. The wood produces biomass fuel. The roots have been used medicinally across traditional systems for inflammatory conditions. The flowers attract pollinators and are themselves edible. The Rockefeller connection is not conspiracist inference. It is documented institutional history. The Rockefeller Foundation's influence on Western medical education through the Flexner Report of 1910 and the subsequent restructuring of American medical schools around pharmaceutical rather than botanical medicine systematically marginalized plant-based medicine from mainstream medical practice in a process that served the petrochemical pharmaceutical interests that the Rockefeller family's Standard Oil fortune funded. Moringa, as a medicinal plant with documented anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and nutritional properties, was among the botanical medicines that this restructuring deprioritized in favor of patentable pharmaceutical compounds derived from synthetic chemistry rather than plant sources. The nutritional profile of moringa leaf is the property that most directly challenges the food industry assumption that complete nutrition requires animal products, and honestly, the specific analytical data makes the comparison pretty stark. Dried moringa leaf powder contains crude protein in the range of 25 to 30% by weight, with an amino acid profile that includes all 9 essential amino acids that the human body cannot synthesize, making it one of the very few plant sources of complete protein available. Gram for gram, dried moringa leaf contains more protein than eggs, more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, more vitamin A than carrots, and more vitamin C than oranges, according to comparative analyses published in agricultural and nutritional research journals. This is not a supplement manufacturer's marketing claim. These are peer-reviewed analytical results from multiple independent research groups working on moringa's nutritional characterization across several decades. So the caloric profile of moringa makes it less valuable as an energy food than as a micronutrient and protein food, which, honestly, is the appropriate category for its use in food security contexts where caloric supply is not the limiting factor, but micronutrient deficiency is. The malnutrition profiles that NGOs working in food-insecure regions most commonly encounter are not caloric deficits. They are iron deficiency, anemia, vitamin A deficiency that causes preventable blindness, protein deficiency during childhood development, and calcium deficiency that compromises bone development. Moringa's nutritional profile addresses all 4 of these simultaneously, from a plant that grows rapidly in the marginal soils and variable rainfall conditions that characterize food-insecure region, which is exactly why food security researchers have consistently identified it as one of the highest priority plants for food security programs in tropical and subtropical regions. The seed oil's commercial properties are the aspect of Moringa that most directly competes with established industrial interests and, understanding those properties explains the lack of commercial development of Moringa oil in Western markets, despite its documented quality advantages over imported alternatives. Moringa seed oil, historically called ben oil after the behenic acid it contains in high concentration, has a stability against oxidative rancidity that exceeds most other edible oils. The oleic acid content is comparable to olive oil, making it suitable for the same culinary applications. Its cosmetic properties, particularly its rapid skin absorption and non-greasy residue, made it a valued ingredient in perfume manufacture in the ancient Mediterranean world, where it was used as a carrier for aromatic compounds in ways that documented its presence in ancient Egyptian cosmetic preparations. The stability that makes it slow to go rancid without refrigeration also made it historically valuable as a lubricant for precision instruments, including watch mechanisms, where conventional oils would oxidize and gum over time. The commercial market for these properties exists today. High-stability edible oils, natural cosmetic carrier oils, and precision lubricants are all commercially active categories with premium pricing for quality product. Moringa oil production at commercial scale has not developed in Western markets, not because the product lacks commercial potential, but because the existing supply chains for olive oil, argan oil, and synthetic lubricants have the market position and commercial infrastructure that a newcomer crop requires years and significant capital investment to challenge. The barrier is commercial, not technical. The water purification function of Moringa seed meal is the application with the most immediately practical implications for household and community-scale water treatment in regions where chemical purification inputs are expensive or unavailable. The coagulation mechanism by which Moringa seed proteins clarify turbid water was characterized in detail in research published through the late 1980s and 1990s, including work supported by the World Health Organization on appropriate technology solutions for rural water treatment. The Moringa seed contains a naturally occurring cationic protein, meaning a protein with a net positive charge that binds to the negatively charged suspended particles in turbid water, causing them to clump together into larger aggregates that settle out of the water column under gravity. This process, called coagulation-flocculation, is the same primary treatment mechanism used in municipal water treatment facilities, using aluminum sulfate or ferric chloride as the coagulating agent. The dose required for effective treatment is approximately 50 to 200 milligrams of crushed seed per liter of turbid water, depending on turbidity level and the specific particle load. The seeds from a single Moringa tree can treat thousands of liters of water annually, providing a renewable, locally produced, chemical-free water treatment resource that costs nothing to produce beyond the cultivation of the tree. In regions where waterborne disease from turbid drinking water is a significant public health burden, Moringa-based coagulation is not an alternative to better infrastructure. It is a practical solution available immediately from a plant that can be established in 6 months on marginal land. The biofuel potential of Moringa connects to the Rockefeller suppression narrative most directly, because the oil's properties as a biodiesel feedstock were documented in the same period when Standard Oil's market dominance was consolidating around petroleum-derived fuels. Moringa seed oil has a fatty acid profile that makes it suitable as a biodiesel feedstock, with viscosity and cetane number characteristics that researchers in India, the Philippines, and several African countries have confirmed in engine performance studies. The yield of oil per hectare from Moringa under productive management is not competitive with the highest yielding biodiesel crops in optimal conditions, But in the marginal land and variable water conditions where Moringa thrives and high-yielding alternatives do not, it represents a viable distributed fuel production option that requires no petroleum inputs for its own production. The connection to Rockefeller is not that Standard Oil specifically targeted Moringa. It is that the economic system Standard Oil helped build, in which centralized petroleum refining and distribution displaced distributed local fuel production as the economically rational choice through price competition subsidized by the scale efficiencies of industrial petroleum processing, made all distributed plant-based fuel production economically marginal, regardless of its technical viability. Moringa's potential as a local fuel source was one of many distributed energy options that the industrial petroleum economy foreclosed not through suppression, but through the economic displacement that centralized production at massive scale consistently delivers against distributed local alternatives. The comprehensive utility of Moringa as food, medicine, water treatment, cosmetic ingredient, and fuel feedstock from a single fast-growing plant tolerant of marginal conditions represents the kind of integrated self-sufficiency that industrial supply chains are structurally opposed to. A household or community that grows Moringa for multiple applications reduces its dependence on the food supply chain, the pharmaceutical supply chain, the cosmetic supply chain, and potentially the fuel supply chain simultaneously. That comprehensive reduction in supply chain dependence is the aggregate threat that industrial interests have never needed to explicitly suppress, because economic and cultural systems that reward specialization and purchase over integration and self-production have marginalized it more effectively than any deliberate suppression program could have. Subscribe to Hydrohaven for the knowledge that reconnects you to what plants are capable of when the full picture is on the table. See you in the next one.